Okay, very welcome students to the class of computer science and engineering. We are going to start the third unit's second point. Today's date is 13th of July. Because the last links of WebEx temporary links were there, the license was expired, so that link was no longer working. I'm really sorry that you require to re-register once again. Use your Raisuni emails for re-registration. Okay? And don't forget to write down clearly your roll number in a registration form and your section, whether it's a TY, third year section A or section B. So I'm going to share my desktop with you now. Right now we are having total 20 attendees, and I know that today we are going this registration is going on, so it will increase. So hope that all the students will register for this by next 5 minutes. So this 10:56, due to the registration of the process, we already have missed some time, so the lecture may extend a little bit by 5 or 10 minutes afterwards. So let's see the different. Uh, so I'm going to uh, now 26 registrations are there. Link is already sent on your our WhatsApp group. So if somebody is having any problem, directly go to the WhatsApp group and use this new link, okay, for registering to the software engineering and project management lecture. And so let's start with the lecture. So our today's topic is design models, principles, and quality in software engineering designing. After software requirement specification or the first model of software engineering, we require to concentrate on this. Uh, I Before starting the lecture, I am requesting all of you to kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel Tutor AS Rumale, and also spread the word of this YouTube channel among all the students and your friends from this or from other colleges also, so that they can go through the lecture and they can get some knowledge from this if something is not there. Okay, and will get the subscriber. That is the one point. The only thing is that the lectures will be available for evaluation to the world, and then your comments, their comments, and the questions raised by the different viewers and other people will help me to improve my content. Okay. For example, every year I try to improve the content of my lecture and my what you can say quality of my lectures, and this happens just because I'm getting real feedback for this. So just like our first session, first 2 units, we are taking the polling for the 2 units coverage, and like after completion of the 2 units, I'm going to take the once again the polling feedback from you people regarding the entire thing. Okay, so let's go with the lecture now. What is software engineering that we already know? Now we are going to see what are these design model and likewise. So today's objective is to learn the design model, what are the different design elements in a design model, and what are the design principles, and then some design quality attributes given by different researchers like Gravin, McCalls again, then ISO 9126 quality factors and other. All these quality designs are actually necessary here. You want to have a simple web shop. So what this software requirement specification collaborative relationship classes are narratives, or what we call as the use cases, and this actually creates this design class realization. So we know from this thing what the design classes realization is possible. Then subsystem collaboration, then we go with the refinements to this design class and likewise. So as we go with this actually produce, so we require to go through all this, that is we go with architecture elements and likewise, then use cases are there, okay, which actually gives us the entire use cases. This gives us entire what you can say sequence diagram, use cases diagram, and likewise the behavior detail of the application. So when we get the behavioral detail, we get two things. One is the technical interface, another is the navigational interface. And we already have seen that interface is of three types. One is actually basically it is of two type only, explicit and implicit. So when we say explicit interface, those interfaces where human being or the user required to give the direct input to the system, like through keyboard or through pointer devices, something. Then we call them as explicit interfaces, user interfaces. Those are graphical user interface and command line user interface. Okay, so those are the explicit user interface. They are technical. Now technical there is an implicit user interface. Let's say suppose you are in an eye scanner. Okay, here in eye scanner you are not directly giving any input to the scanner. Instead you are simply standing before the scanner and scanner scans your iris or your eye and do the processing. So it is an indirect type of you can say input given to the system. For example, if you pass through some CCTV camera, and CCTV camera will take the picture of you and try to analyze from that picture exactly who are you by from the store images, and likewise that is a implicit interface. So when we are saying SRS, we are getting from these SRS use cases that how system respond to the users and how users will respond to the system, and that is what we can say the thing that we are having. Then we are having the class diagram in analysis or in software requirement model, that is we get a class diagrams, analysis packages, and likewise. So this gives us the interface elements. So when we have the design classes or when you want to design the things, we require to first concentrate on architectural elements. Second, we require to concentrate on the interface elements. Okay, then we require to concentrate on the interface elements. And there are few persons who consider themselves very important and they unnecessarily phone when they know that this is the timing of lecture. Okay, so technical interface design is there, navigation design, graphical user interface design is there. Then you are in the class diagrams here, analysis package, class responsibility, collaborative model, collaboration diagram, data flow, control flow. Again, all these diagrams are there, and few diagrams are added here, and those diagrams are state and sequence, which are actually the part of this interface diagram. This actually gives you the component level elements. So what are the different components that you require to design to make your software complete? So all these component elements are given here in a process dimension. Once you got your architecture, your interface, and your component level elements ready in the software from this software requirement specification and design model. Okay, means you got this analysis or software requirement specification model. Then from that you are actually getting this design model. Your fourth, and the last element here is the requirements. Okay, and what these requirements are? These are the sometimes technical requirements. These are sometimes non-technical requirements. For example, when we say constraints, okay, these requirements. So what are the constraints? A customer or the user may want that a particular application from you within a particular time. Yes. So this particular application, if asked by this user within that particular time or time period, what we call as this is a time constraint. Okay, user is the customer is not ready to pay you much. So they say that you require to design and develop the software, but with only this much of amount. Let's say few rupees, few lakh rupees, and something like that, and they are not ready to give you extra money. Then it is called as the financial constraint. So you are having the constraint, technical, time constraint, financial constraint, technical constraint. The user only want that things in say created in a particular thing, and say these constraints may be like something that user require to have all the things in a particular language only. Means you are expert in Java, but user want no, my application should have to be in Kotlin. Okay, then you require to learn the Kotlin language for that, or you have to hire the Kotlin expert, and that is what we can say are the constraints. So you are on the technical constraints, you are on the financial constraints, you are on the time constraint, and then you may have some other constraints which are imposed by the government. For example, say user want from you an application which can help that user to make changes in some watermark or something, but the government says that to make certain type of security changes you require to take the legal licenses from the government, and those are called as the legal constraints. So those constraints require to be addressed here, and from these constraints and everything you actually realize those things, because when you deploy your system, or when you actually bring your system in a process of use, what happen, these systems, if they are not obeying or respecting the particular constraints, can cause a problem. Okay, so they must have to be deployment level elements there, and in deployment level elements you require to consider time constraint. Okay, then you require time constraints, after time constraint financial constraint, technical constraint, and legal constraint. Okay, or what they call as a limitation or bounds. So these things required to be addressed by you in the design element. Okay, and the design elements, design model deal with the process dimension. So they deals with the process dimension. Then after process, you know that is data is the main ingredient of any software, because without data, a software can't work. There must have to be some input data, some intermediary data, and some output data. So this system require to be consider about this data. So you have the data design elements. First is the process design element. When design elements, process design is having these four elements: architecture, interface, component, and deployment level elements. While in data design elements, also called as data architecturing, here you require to consider three things. Whenever you are having the data, first data is what we call as the input. Second data, what we call as the intermediary data. Okay, intermediate data. Third data is what we call as the final or producible data. Take an example, that is you are having the input as something a list. Okay, you are having the list which is say 1, 3, 2, 7, 6, and you want to sort these. So what will be the intermediate data? If you go with the bubble sort, it actually compare with the two elements. So bubble sort will say 1, 3 is this first intermediate, then you are having this 2, okay, and so on. Then for the second iteration it will give 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. And in the same way is go with the third and fourth iteration, and final output or the producible data will be your completely sorted list, like the 1, you are having this 2, then 3, and likewise. So you are having completely sorted data 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and something. So when we say input data, you require to check with the input. Then intermediate data, again input data required to be checked. For example, let's say suppose if you are asking from a user a mobile number, and user enter mobile number like A123. So you know that there is a string element A is there, character, which is not valid in a mobile number. So you have to check on that. So input checking likewise. So when you say data design elements or data architecturing, we are actually talking about how this data will be get stored, what will be the type of that data, and likewise. So it may be the data structure or it may be the databases. The thing is that the intermediary data, if it is not persistent or we can say continuous, we can call it as a data structure data, otherwise it is a data base data. So after these data design elements, architectural design elements are there. So architectural design elements gives these things. We already discussed this. Okay. So architectural design elements, that information about. Then we have the interface design elements, which gives the information about what type of interfaces we are going to implement. Okay. And then we require to go with the other elements. Then deployment level design elements are there. Okay, where you require to consider about all those limitation or constraints like technical, financial, time, and legal. Okay, so there are different type of design principle. This first principle is the open close principle, OCP, where the module should be open for extension but closed for modification. Means if you are having a module, already created module is there. Let's say you created one module, and this module now is closed. Means you say that module is closed, but this module is given with some interface patch, that if you want to add any advancement into this module, you can create the other small module, or what you can say call a patch, which can fit into this particular interface. And so now this module can use the processing power of this new patch, and you get this particular module ready. So this is called as a open closed principle. Okay, that is, your module is ready. The only thing is that even if your module is ready, you are actually not trying to implement the module. You are actually not trying to implement the module more often. Instead, all the modifications of these modules are implemented as a separate patches, and those are added as an extension. Okay, so those are not the part of that particular module. So basic design remains same, and whatever the new design or new you can say services are there, those are provided with this module as and when required by the user. And once those requirements become quite you can say known or familiar to the user, then afterwards you may decide to embed them into the basic module, and that is the open close principle of the design. What is the next principle of the design is something it's called as Liskov substitution principle. So subclasses should be substitutable for their base classes. So say suppose you created one module, okay, and now you want to design, modify it. So what you are actually doing, you, instead of creating a small patch of that modification, you redesign the entire module, and in updation process, old module get what you can say deleted from the system, and this new module actually substitutes the old module. So I replace that old module with the new features and functionalities. So this is the Liskov substitution principle, which is generally used. Then you have the dependency inversion principle, or a DIP principle, so which depends on abstraction. So this do not depend on the concretion, but on the abstraction. So what happened, when you create the module, we say polygon. Polygon is a module. So this is a dependency inversion principle. So whenever you have the polygon, you know triangle, rectangle, hexagon, pentagon, octagon, all those are the part of polygon. So whenever you add some new procedure of creating new polygon, that simply goes into that dependency model. Then you are in the interface segregation principle, which means consider that all modules are actually required to serve the end user, and so whatever the user interface designs, okay, client specific interfaces, they are the general purpose, and they decide how this module will interact with each other. This is one principle, that is the interface segregation principle. Next principle is the release reuse equivalency principle, or this principle is there. This is the granule of you can say reuse is the granule of release. It means that is, you release the software, and once that software is adopted by the users, okay, and they gives you the feedback for the particular software, you modify the software, and once again you release the software. So once again this new release is used by the software users. They gives you the new what you can say entries, and this goes on. So if you see all these things, this reuse equivalency principle is there, which is used. Then you are in the common closure principle for the software designing. Here they say that is classes that change together belong together. Classes that change together belong together means if you are having a complete group here, I am saying this as a complete group, and let's call this as a file. Okay. So in a menu you have this file class. So here you are having new, okay, save, then save as, and other type of classes which are available very clearly for the thing. So that changes. So if something changes in one, so all those classes are belong together. So they are generally get packaged. The package symbol, old package symbol of the UML was given by this, the name of package here, and all the interrelated classes with their collaboration relative class collaborative diagram will be shown inside the packages. So this is called as the common closure principle, which is used for designing these different, you can say, software logic. Then there is a common reuse principle, CRP classes that aren't reused together should not be grouped together. For example, the classes under a view tab and classes under the file tab in any menu are never get, or you can say, reused together, or they are not actually grouped together. Or say suppose if you want to draw some graph from the particular data, there may be a module for the graph drawing, but that is not embedded in a file menu. It is kept as a separate toolbox, and when you are required, you are actually using that. So this is called as common reuse principle. Then what is design quality? So generally nowadays all applications are network centric, and so all application we can say are of a web application. Here web doesn't mean that website. Web here means network applications, or the applications which require some network functionality. So these are the web application quality attributes that are required in a design. First application quality attribute is it must have to be usable. If your application is not usable, it is useless. It is not marketable. It can't be called as a software. So what is usability means? Global site understandability means your application should have to be globally acceptable. Then online feedback and help features must have to be there in your application. Your application's interface and aesthetic must have to be good. That is aesthetic features, looks of your application, what they say. And there must have to be some special feature or wow feature in your application which must have to delight the user. Then functionality, obviously your graphical user interface is very good, okay, your aesthetic is very good, but there is no functionality, then you don't use that particular application. Yeah? So functionality, there are few core functionalities an application must have to have. One is the searching and retrieving capability. So your application must have to give ability to search anything from the database. Your application must have to have the ability to search something from the database. It must have to have the ability to search or to retrieve the data and to store the data into the particular databases. A proper navigation and browsing features must have to be given in your application or in your software. Your application domain related features must have to be there. What are the domain related features? Let's say suppose if you are having the e-commerce application, a simple web application, web app, or what we can say app designed and developed by you for e-shopping. Let's say shop in Wagoli as a web app that you design and develop. And now you want the domain related features here. So what are the domain related features? First, the product review features, list of products, list of sellers, comparison between the products, and all those things. Those are called as the domain related features. Then buying options, selling options, paying option, all those things are the domain related features. Must have to be there, and that is called as the functionality. Now reliability, you know, that is correct link processing, error recovery, user input validation and recovery. All these are called as what you can say these Samir Mishra and all other students. I can't give you any approval for the annotation. Okay, so kindly don't send the request for that. Samir Mishra, this is almost fifth time you are giving this unnecessary request. I am not going to allow any student for annotation. Okay, so don't pass such requests. Now correct link processing and other things are there. Then efficiency is there. What is efficiency? If something, any software, when it works in a proper way and within a particular time you can say bound, you can call it as a efficient software. So response time, performance time should have a page generation speed, if any pages are generated, graphic generation speed and other things must have to be there. Your software should have to be maintainable. So how the software can be maintainable? If it is easy to correct, if it is adaptable and if it is extensible. Okay, so these are what you can say the web application quality in a quality designs. There are different application things. So design can be said as a quality design if and only if, means if you design a software, okay, if it follows keep it simple and stupid principle, okay, generally known as a KISS principle in software engineering and project management. It should have to be modular, it must have to be secure, it is must have to be reliable, it must have to be effective and efficient. The difference between effective and efficient is that, let's say suppose if I ask you to dig a hole, okay, and you dig that hole within say 2 minutes, then I ask you to what you can say close the hole. So you close that hole within 2 minutes. You are very efficient at your work, but whether you are effective or not, that is the question, because that hole is not used. So anything which is done within a time but not used by anyone can be called as efficient but not effective. So your software must have to be effective, means all these four criteria should have to be used by some end user, then and then only it can be called as effective, and the execution of this is called as efficiency. Okay, then it must have to be expandable. So whatever your software is there, that software must have to have the ability to adapt the new thing, new people. Here you are having total 70 attendees right now. So if someone want to come into the lectures, 71, 72, 73, and so it's, what you can say, the attendees list get expanded, and this expansion is happening real time. So what is this? Webex application is expandable. Okay, up to limit. I right now have given the constraint of 150 only. Okay, this expansion can go beyond 150 if I increase it to 500, and likewise. So that is what we call as an expandation. Your application must have to be flexible and should have to be interact with other software. For example, right now the recording of this lecture is going on with Open Broadcaster Studio OBS. So it is actually interacting with that software, it is interacting with Windows operating system, and it also interacting with my own annotator. I am not using the Webex annotator because it slows down somehow the speed of the Webex experience. Okay, because of the poor bandwidth right now. So now we are having this flexible and say then it must have to be maintainable and it must have to be reusable. So if you go with the design qualities, here you are having total 9 qualities, and there are many other qualities that you can go on adding in this. Okay, so it must have to be aesthetic, it must have to be real time, it must have to be networking, it must have to be like that. All those are the qualities things. So there must have to be something what we call as a performance quality. So does the software deliver all content, functions and features? Okay, so if the software is delivering, if the software is delivering all these contents and this deliver this content, all content, functions and features, we can call that software as we can say performance quality. Feature quality, does the software provide features that surprises and delight the first time end users or even the regular end user? Okay, that must have to be there. Reliability is again the quality of the dimension. Conformance, does the software conform to local and external software standards? These are the technical as well as legal standards that require to conform with, and that means durability of your system. Can software be maintained, or you can say how longer it can be usable? Serviceability of the software, whether it is remotely serviceable or you require the manual servicing. Aesthetics means the looks of your software. And perception. Now, what is perception? Means your view or the prejudice. I'm just giving you one simple example of the perception or how your perception can be changed for something. Okay, let's say suppose if you say something भक्ती गीत आहे मराठीतलं, इफ ज्या लोकांना मराठी समजतं त्यांना लगेच लक्षात येईल. मी जर भक्तिगीत म्हटलं, सावळे सुंदर रूप मनोहर राहो निरंतर हृदयी माझे. ओके, so this is a simple भक्तिगीत of the विठ्ठला. ओके, विठ्ठलाचं भक्तिगीत आहे. पण आता जर समजा एखादी व्यक्ती समोर त्याच्या प्रेयसीचं किंवा प्रियकराचा फोटो घेऊन असेल आणि तो सावळा आहे आणि तो हे गाणं म्हणत असेल तर हे भक्तिगीत आहे का? परसेप्शन चेंज होऊन जातं. So perception, your view, तुमचा दृष्टिकोन जो आहे, that state of prejudice, that will influence your perception of quality. So even if I give you the very right quality software, if you are saying that is because this is coming from this particular region, this is bad. Okay, that is a perception. Okay, and so the perception is the one thing which goes with this Gavin's quality dimensions. Okay, so he says that is even your software is good, if someone perceives that particular developers, particular company never going to give you something, or if someone perceives that particular company is trying to steal your data, it goes on the thing. Now, Mac also have given some quality factors, and those are correctness, reliability, efficiency, integrity. All these things are already discussed by me, so I am not going to discuss on what is correctness. Correctness means how to give the always correct data. Reliability you already know, efficiency you already know. Okay, and other things are also known to you. Then you are on the integrity. Here you have to integrate all the things, usability of your software, then maintainability of your software. These are the Macros quality factors. These factors thou not given in your syllabus as a part. I am teaching this as a beyond syllabus element to you, because without this you can't understand what exactly mean by the software design thing. Flexibility, testability, portability, okay, reusability, and interoperability. These are the rest of this Macros quality factors. Now we go with the ISO standard quality factors 9126. Functionality, reliability, and usability. Then efficiency, maintainability, and portability. We already have discussed this. Now I am just going to throw some light on the portability. Portability means your software must have to occupy minimum memory, and must have to give maximum throughput. So then you can see it is the portability. So it is something that. So here you are in the object-oriented design concept. Everything can be considered as a class. Okay, object-oriented objects are there. First the classification, then you have the inheritance, and then you have the communication. So you require two different classes. Okay, then you have to have the inheritance, communication, something. So there are the different design classes, and these different design classes are first is the user interface class, because that actually gives the idea about how your classes are designed. Okay, that actually gives you the idea about how your classes can be designed. And so user interface classes are there, and these classes actually designs your interfaces. So those interfaces are explicit in interfaces, or they may be the implicit interfaces. Then you have the business domain classes. These are actually called as the source classes. Okay, so these classes are called as the source classes, and likewise then you have the process classes, then you have the persistent classes, afterwards you have the system classes, then likewise. So if you go with these design classes, you are in these things. So If you have any questions or queries, you can put them in the question and answer things. I think few people are having problem in registering, so we today got a very less attendance, only 72 at this juncture. Actually, I have seen around 78 something count in between, but I don't know why this is. Maybe the network problem people have gone through, and these peoples, Abhijit Alne, Aishwarya Shinde, then Bure, Gautam Jingare, Kalyani Maitre, all they have minimized their windows. Some of the students actually called me, but due to this lecture continuation, I haven't received their call. Okay, I'm literally sorry for that because I can't receive the call. It disturb the entire lecture totally. So if you have any questions and queries, you can put them in the question and answers. So it says that we cannot hear you. You are not audible. You are not audible. Please check your audio.